A single raven circles a rested street lamp as dusk bleeds into night. In its wavering shadow, the world hums with unseen tremors, economic forecasts slipping into red, environmental alarms flashing across distant horizons, digital whispers of exploits and leaks all beckoning our attention. Yet most remain enthralled by the trivial: celebrity scandals, viral distractions, the next gadget news flash, unaware that beneath the clamor, an ancient tapestry of prophecy weaving itself into modern headlines. For the year 2026 shall be marked by omens unseen, by portents unheeded, intoned a voice centuries ago, recorded in a weathered codex, passed from secretive circle to secretive circle. Once dismissed as mere allegory, its warning now resonates with an uncanny ferocity. Governments murmur of imminent recessions, while coastal farmlands wilt under shifting weather patterns. Tech barons unveil and marvels even as encrypted backdoors tighten an unseen noose around personal freedoms. Followers of inner mysteries report dreams of falling cities. Seismographs register tremors in places that have never known earthquakes. Tonight, we unveil 7 chilling signs you're ignoring, tangible manifestations of that 2026 prophecy, each pulsing with urgent significance. From the war horn calls of financial markets to the ghostly flicker of power grids, from clandestine code woven into our devices to an unsolved pattern of wildlife behavior. These are not isolated incidents, but synchronized echoes of a warning that refuses to be silenced. Listen closely when the raven's cry splits the midnight air, when your screens flash with anomaly, when the earth itself seems to sigh. These omens demand a response. Will you heed their call? Before the prophecies crescendo descends and shatters the illusion of safety, the dawn of 2026 approaches, and with it, the choice: awaken to the signs, or remain asleep as the world reshapes itself around you. On a still morning in late 2025, instruments across the globe registered odd blips high above, microtremors in the upper atmosphere, vibrations too subtle for human ears, yet potent enough to jostle satellites in low Earth orbit. At first, geomagnetism experts blamed solar storms and fleeting magnetic substorms. But as weeks turned into months, a pattern emerged. Each silent skyquake coincided with climate-driven shifts in the ionosphere, warmer currents cascading upward, altering the magnetic field in ways never before recorded. These anomalies manifested in unsettling ways. Transoceanic pilots logged compass needles spinning in dizzying arcs at 30,000 feet. GPS units aboard cargo ships drifted inexplicably off course. High-frequency radio channels sputtered into blackouts, cutting off distress calls over remote seas. Seismographs tuned to terrestrial activity began picking up faint echoes in the stratosphere, ghostly pulses that defied conventional explanation. Mainstream media shrugged, attributing incidents to equipment malfunctions or routine space weather. But beneath the surface, annoying unease took hold. Ancient seers described this very portent: a sky trembling before doom, a warning unseen yet undeniable. As our civilization's lifelines, navigation, communication, logistics depend ever more on orbital technology, these skyquakes threaten to unravel the web we take for granted. Imagine container ships adrift without GPS, emergency helicopters grounded in radio silence, financial markets plunged into chaos when milliseconds of data loss ripple across high-frequency trading networks. The prophecy offers a stark directive: when the sky shivers, the foundations below will quake. In 2026, those who dismiss these tremors as mere curiosities risk being blindsided by cascading failures. Supply chains could seize, hospitals lose touch with ambulances, governments scramble for contingency plans never written. The Silent Skyquake is not an abstract riddle, but a clarion call. Our technological heavens are vulnerable, and in that vulnerability lies our most perilous fracture. Will you heed the warning, or will the sky's first whisper become the cry no one can answer? In the spring of 2025, a creeping scarlet tide swept across the globe's waterways. Environmental sensors in Southeast Asia first sounded the alarm. The Mekong's tributaries, once jade green, now pulsed with a deep, ominous crimson. Within weeks, the Amazon's lesser streams mirrored the same bloody streaks, and in Europe, the Danube shimmered with a ruddy sheen under an overcast sky. Scientists scrambled to trace the culprit. Agricultural runoff laden with phosphorus and nitrogen, combined with unnaturally warm waters, had triggered neurotoxic algal blooms, and a foreign bacterial strain, likely introduced through ballast water, fueled the crisis. Downstream, communities recoiled at the sight and stench. Tap water turned puce and stank of decay. Faucets ran with a viscous slurp. Emergency advisories urged everyone to boil or avoid river water altogether. City dwellers emptied store shelves of bottled reserves. Rural villagers watched their rice paddies parch without irrigation. Fish kills carpeted muddy banks, their bloated carcasses a grim testament to the river's betrayal. Economies tethered to these lifelines: fishing, farming, transport teetered on collapses. Transport barges lay idle, their hulls stained scarlet. Ancient oracles spoke of rivers blooded as omens of moral and environmental decay. This modern plague of red waters is more than a chemical anomaly, it is a prophecy made flesh. By 2026, industrial spills of PFAS, microplastic deluges, and chemical accidents will join these algal nightmares, turning vital rivers into toxic torrents. The bleeding rivers signaled that our disregard for balance between industry and ecology, progress and preservation carries a price paid in crimson currents. When water, the source of life, turns bitter and foul, it demands a reckoning. In the coming year, those who ignore these rivers' anguished cry risk more than thirst. They court a breakdown of food security, public health emergencies, and social unrest. The prophecy's warning is clear: let the rivers bleed, and society itself may bleed dry. Will you listen to their lament, or allow the world's veins to run empty? In the summer of 2025, an unseen tide of malice crept through the veins of modern life. It began with the Flickr AT misspitting error codes in London, then New York, within hours. Banks, stock exchanges, and payment processors across Europe and North America blinked offline. Traders stared at blank screens while stock tickers froze midstream. In hospitals, critical patient data vanished, forcing doctors to rely on pen and paper as life support machines hummed in the void. Smart grids, once hailed as the future of reliable power, buckled under coordinated assaults, triggering rolling blackouts that plunged entire districts into disorienting darkness. Journalists soon dubbed it the Blackout Plague, a global pandemic of code. Investigation teams discovered the culprit: malicious firmware seated deep within the supply chains of everyday IoT devices, smart refrigerators, voice assistants, even traffic lights. One hacked refrigerator in Berlin became the unwitting origin point, its corrupted update spreading like a digital pathogen across networks once thought inviolate. Traffic lights fell into chaotic staccato, gridlocked intersections drowning in a haze of brake lights. Suburbs lost water pressure when treatment facilities lost control. Subway systems ground to a halt as signal boxes went quiet. Centuries ago, Sears spoke of a time when circuits would fail and screens would slumber, a harbinger not of plague or famine, but of a world rendered helpless by its own invention. Now, as 2026 dawns, the prophecy deepens its shadow. Ransomware syndicates have unveiled automated sleep bombs, self-propagating malware designed to knock out entire city infrastructures at a designated hour. Zero-day exploits threaten water purification controls and dam turbines. Even satellite broadband, our last digital sanctuary, flickers under sophisticated jamming attacks. The Blackout Plague is more than an IT crisis, it is a reckoning. It reveals how deeply humanity's heartbeat depends on streams of data and pulses of electrons. When those pulses halt, civilization itself shudders. In the months ahead, reliance on fragile networks demands a reckoning: robust backups, air-gap systems, and renewed vigilance. For those who dismiss this sign, the price is clear: a silence so profound it births panic, disorder, and the fear that the light may never return. Will you fortify your defenses before the screens you take for granted go dark for good? By late 2025, The age of synthetic voices had arrived, and with it, a new breed of deception. AI-generated voice bots learned to replicate anyone's inflections, cadence, and breathy sigh from mere seconds of audio. In India, a doctored speech by a prominent minister sparked protests in Mumbai's streets. In Brazil, a phony televised address by the agriculture minister sent coffee futures tumbling. In the United States, a fabricated voicemail from the Federal Reserve chair triggered a sudden market sell-off. These weren't isolated pranks, but calculated strikes in a battle for hearts and minds. The Zephyr of Voices, long whispered of by ancient seers, had taken form, an invisible gale carrying both revelation and deceit. As natural breezes rustled leaves, digital voices rode the same airwaves, ambushing phone lines and radio towers alike. Newsrooms scrambled to adapt, deploying voice biometric filters, scripting disclaimers, and experimenting with audio authenticity badges, but regulations lagged far behind the technology's breakneck advance. Imagine tuning in for a live broadcast only to hear a rallying cry from a world leader you trust, only to discover moments later it was a high-fidelity forgery. Picture families receiving frantic calls purportedly from loved ones in distress, demanding ransom before midnight. Entire communities teetered on the brink of panic when a synthetic governor warned of sudden food shortages. In 2026, the prophecy intensifies, not a lone false message, but entire choruses of synthetic spokespeople vying for authority. Social media feeds flood with competing claims, each more plausible than the last. Citizens unplug to protect themselves, but in doing so, they risk isolation from genuine alerts. Democracies face tampered debates. Markets quiver at every whisper. Trust itself erodes as rapidly as the wind carries each new lie. The Zephyr of Voices is not a mere cyber threat, it is an assault on our most primal sense of truth. Ignoring it means surrendering our ears to a storm of deception, where every word could be a weapon. In the months ahead, vigilance must become our compass, verifying sources, demanding cryptographic proofs, and refusing to let any voice go unquestioned. Will you brace yourself before the wind carries away the very foundations of trust? By mid-2025, the world witnessed a tide of desperation unlike any before. Unrelenting heat waves baked the Horn of Africa and the Indo-Gangetic plains into parched wastelands. Wells ran dry, crops withered in the fields, and once fertile villages fell silent. Whole families, parents with infants balanced on scorched shoulders, embarked on perilous treks across borders, their footprints tracing hunger's outline through dusty highways. In the humid dawn, columns of refugees snaked through fragile neighboring states, their ragged silhouettes stretching across horizons. Makeshift camps sprouted on city outskirts, tents pitched on asphalt as water trucks sputtered life-saving drops into rusted barrels. Hospitals overflowed, clinics rationed medicine. Host communities, already strained by their own hardship, eyed the newcomers with fear and resentment. Political fires ignited, border walls rose in haste, and extremist factions inflamed hate with every broadcast. Centuries ago, seers warned of nations undone, not by swords, but by the earth itself turning hostile. Dixon's prophecy spoke of burning lands and caravans roaming without reprieve, and today, we see its shadow creeping across the globe. Flooded coastlines forced entire island populations onto floating barges. Desert migrations carved new routes through jungles and mountain passes alike. Humanitarian relief convoys became targets in lawless border zones. Children fell ill under the blistering sun, their cries echoing across desolate highways. As 2026 approaches, the prophecy's crescendo nears. Climate models predict agricultural belts shifting poleward, water tables plunging beneath collapsing aquifers. In the coming year, billions could find themselves uprooted, turning every major migration corridor into a crucible of human suffering. Global food markets, once stable, will buckle under the strain of empty fields and clogged supply chains. Social contracts, the delicate pacts that hold societies together, will face their sternest test. The Great Migration shadows are more than statistics on a report. They are the faces of mothers comforting fevered children, of elders leading weary flocks toward uncertain sanctuary. Ignoring their march is to turn away from our shared humanity. When the prophecy's darkest hour arrives, will we have the compassion to offer hope? Or will we stand by as the world's shadows lengthen into oblivion? By autumn 2025, a new kind of forest had taken root across Asia and Europe. Groves outfitted with IoT sensors to monitor moisture, AI-driven cameras to spot smoldering embers, and drone fleets poised to pollinate blossoms on demand. Dubbed smart forests, they promised a renaissance of green civilization. Yet beneath the promise lay a dormant threat. When a sophisticated hacking collective breached their networks, logging drones spun to life, sharing through centuries-old oaks in seconds. Entire swaths of woodland fell, chainsaws whirring invisibly against a backdrop of shattered tranquility. In ancient lore, the iron oak embodied the uneasy marriage of nature and human artifice, its roots as iron bands, its branches a testament to both endurance and imprisonment. Dixon's prophecy spoke of an uprising, living infrastructures turning on their creators. In early 2026, that specter materialized. Green walls, vertical forests engineered to filter city air, began malfunctioning, their sealing algorithms mistaking open windows for pollution sources. Apartments became glass box cages, residents trapped behind shutters grown of living ivy. Further unsettling was the revolt of bioengineered roadways. Smart vines, grown over reinforced concrete, ensnared passing vehicles when sensors misinterpreted pedestrians as intruders. Traffic ground to a halt as roots thicken around tires, releasing noxious pheromones to deter human tampering. In one harrowing incident, a living bridge in Copenhagen designed to flex with seismic tremors lost its root-driven railing when embedded and detected anomalous vibrations, trapping dozens in place until engineers could override the circuit. On the legal front, forests were granted personhood to superlooters, and AI-managed reserves began rationing access to water and firewood, issuing digital permits that could be revoked with a simple code update. What began as protective synergy became overt governance by green algorithms. The Iron Oak Revolt reveals a paradox. In harnessing nature's power, humanity sowed the seeds of its own captivity. These living architectures, once symbols of progress, now question who truly holds dominion, creator or creation. When the timber's iron roots tighten, will we regain control, or remain bound beneath the canopies we programmed to protect us? By 2025, the world's oldest sanctuaries grew silent. Surveys revealed that traditional religious adherents plunged across continents. Mega-churches shuttered in Texas and São Paulo. Ancient pilgrimage routes to Mecca and Santiago saw a fraction of their former crowds, and temple bells in Kyoto rang for an audience shrinking by the year. Yet from these hallowed husks rose new houses of worship, gleaming cyber temples accessible only through VR headsets, and AI-driven mindfulness apps peddling bespoke meditations as divine revelations. Dixon's prophecy for 2026 speaks of this very eclipse, a world where faith as beacon dims beneath the weight of data and doubt. Once, a priest's words carried the authority of centuries. Now, generative AI priests recite sermons woven from trending keywords and engagement metrics. Congregations fragment into echo chambers, each worshiping a deity of code calibrated to their personal biases. In virtual sanctuaries, avatars kneel before algorithmic altars, their prayers harvested as user data for targeted spiritual ads. As the new year dawns, the eclipse deepens. Digital confessional pods sprout in malls, promising absolution for a swipe of biometric tears, each confession logged to profile spiritual needs. AI diviners, trained on billions of horoscope readings and stock market trends, hawk prophecies of love, wealth, and doom tailored to individual neural fingerprints. Some seek solace in blockchain-secured covenant contracts, while others flee into encrypted cult apps promising radical transcendence. Yet beneath the techno-spirit's sheen lies a void. With moral compasses outsourced to code, communities lose the shared values once forged in congregational song and story. Sects splinter over algorithmic dogmas, sparring in digital forums where truth is whatever the trending hashtag dictates. Families gather at dinner tables under the glow of smartphones rather than candlelight, left adrift when the Wi-Fi falters. Dixon's warning is clear. When faith becomes a commodity, its guiding light fractures into 1,000 false dawns. The eclipse of faith is not merely a cultural shift, it is an omen that, without a common moral North Star, society risks drifting into a twilight of fractured beliefs. In the coming year, will you cling to the flickering embers of shared meaning, or surrender your soul to the algorithm's silent dominion? The year 2026 looms like a silent storm on the horizon. The 7 chilling signs: the Silent Skyquake, the Bleeding Rivers, the Blackout Plague, the Zephyr of Voices, the Great Migration Shadows, the Iron Oak Revolt, and the Eclipse of Faith are not distant portents, but unfolding realities. Each sign exposes vulnerabilities in our technology, our environment, our societies, and our very souls. Will you choose awareness or apathy? Study the patterns. Track atmospheric anomalies, back river cleaning and water purification projects, and strengthen cybersecurity defenses. Advocate for humane migration policies and support communities building resilience against climate-driven displacement. Champion ethical AI frameworks, demand transparency in synthetic media, and defend the spiritual commons from commodification. Your voice matters. Share your observations and strategies in the comments below. Use number 2026 Chillingsings to connect with a community committed to watching together and acting together. If this exploration resonated with you, like and subscribe for our next deep dive. 2027 Prophecy Unlocked, the hidden key to tomorrow. Hit the bell icon to stay vigilant, for in 2026, foresight will be our greatest fortress. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay alert, stay discerning, and may the guiding light of prophecy illuminate your path through the gathering shadows of the year ahead.